We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Sunday. I will say this as you're listening to this, I'm headed back down to Savannah, Georgia till Thursday of next week. We'll be doing the show, of course, and nothing will change in that regard. But we have the good fortune of having Old Soul with us. She was here on Monday when the wound was fresh. Things, I don't know that anything is settled down now, but how are you doing, Old Soul?
I'm doing okay. I think it's what did my daughter call it, like the grieving process. So
Yeah.
every day it's like a little bit different. I did hear like a lot of people talk about, it being stolen and there could be a chance that Kamala could win and all of that stuff. I'm trying not to judge that, even though I don't believe it, because I do understand that we all have to like process that differently. So wherever they're at on it, then I just kind of let them be there.
Yeah,
So
people ask me about it all the time. And first of all, it would be nice if we did find something like that. Secondly, it isn't hard to believe with somebody like Donald Trump and MAGA involved. But I'm
yeah.
just not jumping on that bandwagon until you show me some evidence. And then there's the next step. If there is some evidence, will the Democrats and the DOJ do anything about it? And I'm not convinced they will. So I'm not going to get all excited and talk about something that's just bouncing around the internet and that we have no basis for really believing it at this point, anyway. So you're not buying it.
Yeah. Well, no, I think like, people process things different from their like lived experiences and then their current situations. And so where I'm from, we don't have like the luxury to kind of like sit back and wait and, think that some miracle is going to happen because stuff like that just it's like it's good for television, but not for real life. So you just have to get active, start moving, and start preparing for, what is gonna happen next, and it's not gonna be good. So
Now, I know after the election you were pretty pissed off, and we had the opportunity to speak. I've been getting a lot of people, acting like that's it. The world's over. Democracy is gone. There's nothing we can do. All is lost. You feel that way? I know you. I know you're a little more
um,
down on this than I am. I'm always ready to fight, but I understand people, like you say, process things differently.
yeah, I can fight and be sad at the same time.
Hmm.
And so that's what I'm doing right now is just trying to prepare and help other people prepare for it. But every day is different. I think today was just like a sad day because I saw, and I had just kind of like stopped listening to, politics and stuff. I was like a KKK march or something like that. And it's not that these people, well, they are emboldened, but I think the worst part about it is they've been given like permission to be their worst. And the people that normally talk against that, we're not going to have those people anymore. So we have to like deal with that. That's going to be a regular occurrence and
Well, I
try to
think
be safe as much.
I think there are going to be people speaking up and pushing back, but it's not the people you would expect. It's not the media and that sort of thing. It's going to have to be us, and we're going to have to be
Yeah.
strong, and we're going to have to push back. Here's one little silver lining. Nah, not a silver lining. Maybe a bright light off in the distance. Um, we hear of all the things that Donald Trump wants to do, all these ridiculous appointments, and we'll talk more about that. Um, People have a tendency to believe whatever Donald Trump says is actually going to happen. And now here's the problem: Donald Trump is a sociopath and a pathological liar. Donald Trump is incompetent and inept. And through his first term, while he did some fucked up shit, he didn't do nearly as much fucked up shit as we would imagine. Now, people will tell me, they'll say, yeah, but he learned some lessons. He'll be stronger this time. And I'm not so sure about that. Now, you remember back when he first put his cabinet together, he had some goofy fucks in there, but he had some kind of legitimate people that could actually fill the position. They didn't do it well because they had to take orders from Donald Trump, but they kind of knew what was going on. And one of the reasons why Donald Trump was unsuccessful and Biden was successful is because the government is a big machine. You got to know how to run. Joe Biden knows, Donald Trump does not. Now, when he's putting together his cabinet
Yeah.
now, it sounds like he's going rogue and just putting every crazy fucker in it. Here's my contention. Those people that have even the smallest amount of legitimacy don't want those fucking jobs because they end up getting fired, getting embarrassed, getting, a stain on their reputation, or even getting indicted. So he's putting these people in, or at least trying to put these people in, because nobody reasonable wants to work for Donald Trump. That's my contention. And if they don't have anybody that really understands how the system works, it's going to be hard for them to get anything done, especially since some of the Republicans, at least in the Senate, seem to want to put up some guardrails.
Yeah, I think that it's not so much as Trump, it's just the people that he surrounds himself with. And those are the people who are willing to plan, strategize, and then they can draw that line between, keeping Trump like complacent and, making it just kind of like bringing him up a little bit, making him feel like he's in control, but behind the scenes, they know who's really handling it. And that's how I tend to look at it. The stuff that I'm seeing right now is just, it's Project 2025, especially when it comes to the military. It's either going to be people are going to be pushed out, or I think what's worse is, and with the DOJ too, is people like resigning and turning in their
Yeah,
resignations,
that's true.
because then that allows for him and his cohorts to fill those positions. And so I just see that Project 2025, like from the inside out, I see it taking shape. And I think that's what's going on right now. I'm not underestimating the people around him. I think we all know Trump very well, but when it comes to Stephen Miller, Bannon, like all of these people are the worst of the worst. And these are not the dummies. Trump is the dummy.
I understand they're not the
So that's
dummies.
what I'm seeing. And what scares me the most is Russian.
The thing about it is they aren't dummies, but they're also a
Go ahead.
minority within the Republican Party. As much as the Republicans are complicit in Donald Trump becoming president, um, it's my contention that Donald Trump really has no value to them anymore. They needed him to get the presidency and get the Republicans in power. But now he's doing and saying crazy things. Now, he and MAGA may not know any better. He and MAGA may want to tear down tear down the government. But there are other people in the Republican Party, and we saw that when they made John Thune the leader in the Senate, that say, okay, we're here. He's fucking crazy. Somebody's going to have to put some guardrails up because all of those people have to get reelected. And if he does tariffs and the economy goes to shit, those Republicans are going to have a hard time um, uh, getting reelected. So there's going to be a battle between what they call normal Republicans and the MAGA Republicans. The same thing we've seen for the last 4 years during Biden's office. It's a matter of who wins that. And MAGA has always been a smaller faction in the Republican Party.
Did we see Republicans stand up to MAGA though? Or
No,
did it take a behind the closed door ballot to do so?
no,
And
but
to me, that's where the problem lies, is because standing up to Trump behind closed doors is different than standing up to Trump in the open, saying something on the news and then following through with that. I have to not trust my future to Republicans doing the right thing or having a backbone.
no,
And I don't think I can afford to do that.
the Republicans aren't going to do anything for you or me that's positive. They're only going to do something for themselves that's positive. But crashing the economy and doing the mass deportations, that's going to be damaging to what the people consider the regular Republican Party. So it's we're going to be fighting against them. That goes without saying. Uh, but Donald Trump has a problem too with Congress, even though the Democrats don't have any power in the Senate or the House. We have the same abilities that the Republicans have had for the last 2 years to be the obstructionist. They only got a small majority in the House. They got a small majority in the Senate, but we had that evil thing that we wanted to get rid of working in our advantage, and that's the filibuster. We slap the filibuster on everything and nothing gets passed. That's conceivably what the Democrats are going to do. It's kind of a lame way to fight against it, but at least it's an option.
I look at that, and then like I guess our best option is like to try to, tie it up in the courts or whatever.
Hmm.
But I don't know. And I don't know if it's just because it's my mood or what, but even when it comes to, planning for 2 years down the line and making sure we get out to vote so that we can flip these seats, that's contingent on if we're going to have fair elections again. Like, what does the gerrymandering look like? What does kicking people off the voter rolls look like?
Right.
It's just kind of, wanting the best to happen, still doing my part, but being prepared for the alternative because these are just some of the most evil, vile people that I've
Absolutely.
ever seen or heard of. Like, they're worse than a villain on a movie. Like, these people are really, really bad. And I don't think that I knew how bad it was until, I started traveling and trying to help these girls. But these people they're sick.
They
These
are
are
sick.
bad people.
They are bad
These are
people,
bad.
and anybody that voted for them is culpable and will have blood on their hands when it's all said and done. Let's catch up on what you were doing. We talked to you last Monday, but old soul, there's never any rest for the wicked. Not that you're wicked, but you know what I mean. You're busy as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. So what have you been up to? What's been going on?
Well, I mean, it's a good thing, but it's sad too because like and this is something I should have been paying attention to, but I wasn't. But a lot of the red states, they rolled back child labor laws. And then in addition to that, they've also been lowering the age of consent for girls.
Yeah,
And some of these churches, they are, if a girl, no matter how old she is, if she pops up pregnant, the ever that older guy is that got her pregnant, the parents will just sign off on her getting married. So what we've been doing is getting implants into like the girls once they start their periods, and the implants can last for 4 years. So and there's like viable assault threats going towards these girls. It's just so gross. But if we can't protect them from the assault or the abuses that they're going to go through, and this isn't going to be an administration that focuses on trafficking or anything like that, we could at least maybe alleviate that so they don't have to worry about getting pregnant from it. So that's what we've been doing, the implants. And something that's going to make me smile. I didn't know how progressive nuns were, but there's an organization of nuns, and they're called Nuns on the Bus. And they're pretty progressive. They fight for social justices and a whole host of things. When you think about it, if you are a Christian, you would want to feed the poor. You would want people to have health insurance. Like real Christians, they believe in that. So these
right.
nuns, they fight back against that. But anyway, we were with them making sure that children got immunized and stuff like that, just to prepare them. Flu shots. We had some older people with the nuns, their shingle shots and flu shots and their COVID boosters and all of that stuff, because we have no idea what our Department of Health is going to look like. So getting people vaccinated, making sure that they could be okay for as long as possible while we're trying to ride through 2 4 years, however long this is going to last. So yeah, the nuns are pretty cool, but they don't dress like nuns. They're not in clerics clothes or their little nuns outfits or anything. They just dress regular like we do. And I had a hard time calling them sisters. So they gave me permission to call them sisters. So that's what I've been calling them. So that's my bright spot is, I knew like that this administration would meet resistance. I just didn't think that my part of the resistance would be, a bus full of nuns. But they're pretty cool. So we just been getting along, getting people immunized, and then on the other foot, making sure these girls get their implants. And I turned I turned my head away a couple of times and let some of the girls slide through. The youngest girl we had was 11, and
Wow.
her brother brought her. And he said, "This is my little sister. She started her period, and she was telling me some stuff that was going on in his church, and this was how he was going to protect his sister." And I wasn't supposed to do it without a parent's permission, but I just signed that I verified everything and just, set her in the back. And, we have buses. They're called moms, like medicine on the move. So if you got like I don't know, sometime at your job, they come and they like draw blood and
Right.
you get your mammogram on these little buses and stuff. That's what they're using to take care of these girls to try to get them all with the implants and stuff so that, they can get through. It's going to be rough, but, you know, that's something that they won't have to worry about.
Well, as compassionate as you are, and as people know, you're also one that's going to fight. I mean, after this happened, there were a lot of people grieving, a lot of people upset, still people upset, but there has to come to a point where we push back and fight. In terms of
Yeah,
what happens in 2026, I don't really like to look far ahead to 2026. I feel like that's
yeah,
the Democrats' problem. They need to somehow create a Democratic Party that's going to be appealing. For a while, I thought Donald Trump looked so bad, you don't even have to be that good to beat Donald Trump. And clearly that wasn't the case. So between now and 2026, the Democrats
yeah,
have to do some work. We don't really have any effect over that. But instead of worrying about what's going to happen in 2026, we need to worry about fighting today. What are we going to do today and tomorrow and the next day? What are some thoughts you think that we should be doing? Because I know a lot of people say, I don't know what to do.
you do anything you can. And I do think that people who feel alone and by themselves, it doesn't have to be like that because I
No.
know like you have to, have a community.
Yeah.
Especially if people start getting laid off, they're losing their jobs, like little any little bit helps. I don't know what the school situations are going to be, but every community has like, maybe like a rec center or something, and you could, kids that graduated from high school or who are in high school or college, have them help out to keep the children educated. Because I do know that one thing they want to do is keep America dumb, and we're
Yeah.
not going to allow them to do that.
No.
If you babysit, if you got extra, just help each other out. And I do think that that could go a long way with that. There's when I used to do Helping Hands of Southern Nevada, there's like this old woman, and her ancestry was the Holocaust. Like it was just like her and one other sibling, and the rest of their generations was just wiped out. And I called her to check on her. And of course, she's worried about the camps, but she told me something that I didn't even think about is um, Elon Musk and how he has these plans to put chips in people's heads and stuff. And so her main concern is once they get to the camps, what are they going to be doing and how are they going to be treated when they get there? We know they're not going to be treated humanely, but she was just kind of worried about him taking it too far and nobody checking him when he does that. And I didn't think about that, but you can still do a little bit. If you cooking and you got a neighbor up the street that doesn't have food, you can cook a little extra more, take them a plate, just help each other out. Because I do think right now we, as sane people, are going to need each other. That can go a long way for somebody.
People talk about the camps and the deportations and the problems with money and such. Do you
Yeah.
think that the average normal American, say Democrats, is just going to stand by and say, "Okay, I'll go to camp"? This is what I've said before. I said, um, to steal a
Um,
colloquial, say I'm fixing to think there's trouble going to be because of this, because people aren't going to just willingly give their rights away and do as they're told. I'm just, uh, that's what my biggest concern is. They go into a state like California or even Minnesota and they say, we're going to do this anyways. I'm afraid somebody like Tim Walz or Gavin Newsom is going to say, fuck yourself. And then all of a sudden we've got to fight. And then we've got people fighting back. It could be a mess, and I'd be surprised if people
yeah.
just went along with everything that they were told to do. That's not how America is.
I would be surprised if they did, but I do know like I don't have a healthy survivor's instinct, I've been told, but I do know that other people, they do have that instinct to just survive. And, before Trump wanted to shoot people in the leg, what happens when there's no one to tell him that he can't do that? I think it'll be kind of making an example of people. So I think they might be very extreme at first. And it's just how how willing are people to push back without that fear? Because there's somebody like me that's like, yeah, I'll probably be up out of here before y'all before y'all did that to me. But other people, and I did realize during this election that people are more selfish than what I thought.
Oh
There's
yeah.
people who voted for themselves, not the company, not the country as a whole. So they voted for something, a tax break that they would presume that they would get, but they didn't worry about the women and the girls who are going to die without health care. They didn't worry about people's social security getting cut off. They didn't worry. There's so much stuff that people just did not care about. It's me, my problem right now. And that's the only thing that they voted for. So voting for themselves was a vote against everybody else. So I didn't think America was that selfish. Racist, yeah, but that selfish, I didn't think so. Because I thought they would at least look out for their parents and, their siblings to have, safety nets, but they couldn't even do that. So I don't have that much belief in them like that, but I
Yeah.
mean, we're gonna find out.
But we're going to find out. I think what we found is that people are selfish, more racist, more misogynistic, more anti-Semitic, and just flat out stupid than we could ever imagine. I mean, you talk about the COVID epidemic or pandemic. We've got an epidemic in this country of fucking stupid, and I don't know what you do with that. You can't make people smart all of a sudden. I think that I think overall in the government and of course from the people, because public opinion does make a difference. It really does make a
Yeah,
difference. And if there's an uprising or an upheaval in people and the talk is wrong, they have their survival instincts too. They're going to want to survive. And if the economy sucks and they're loading people on trucks and they're putting people in unhealthy situations, people will push back. And it doesn't have to be fighting in the streets, it's just to be talking loud and uh, scaring Republicans
yeah,
who don't see that as advantageous going into the next election. So, I mean, there are things we can do. We can. Let me ask you this: there's a thing going around TikTok. I know you're not on social media in that regard, but
yeah.
there's a few people out there on TikTok doing segments on what they call "fuck around and find out." And they're telling all these stories about all these Republicans that were all in on Donald Trump, and now they're going, wait a fucking minute. What do you mean? There
Yeah,
was one where a young black man was MAGA, and after they won, he reached out to him and said, "All right, we won. Let's be a team." And they basically said, "Fuck yourself. You're black. We don't care about you. We got your vote. Now we don't need you. Go the fuck away." And there are immigrants that are naturalized citizens that thought they were safe and keeping out the illegal ones and they were okay because they were legal. They're finding out that's not true. All the Arab
yeah,
Americans, the far left people saying, "Genocide Joe, we got to save the Palestinians." Immediately, they're finding out now that what Donald Trump wants to do is going to get those Palestinians wiped out and they're going to have blood on their hands. So much so
yeah,
that some of these people have gone to Joe and said, "Joe, you got to do something. You got to do something." Well, you should have voted for Joe because you would have kept him safe that way. You're hearing about all this buyer's remorse. Do you think that
hmm
that gets any traction over time as people start to experience the things they didn't expect they'd experience?
yeah. Like one of the nuns, she was just saying that, as a country, we're pretty spoiled.
Yeah.
And she said that's what gives her hope, is because she knows like we are a country that's used to freedom. We're used to certain rights and certain things. And once we become uncomfortable enough or miserable enough, then that's when you will see the uprisings and the people fighting back. Um, the F around and find out. I do think that's a good chunk of them, but I do think that more of them needs to feel it. They really do. I've just been asking questions instead of like one guy, he said that, and I don't know why people thought that the ACA and Obamacare were like two separate things,
Yeah.
but he said that, he's down for the ACA, but he doesn't like Obamacare. And so I was like, oh, well, what don't you like about Obamacare? Instead of telling him that they're the same thing, I just asked him, what do you not like about Obamacare? And he was just like, well, and he couldn't answer the question. And so I was like, maybe you could just like look in your phone and kind of like look it up and see, compare the two. It only took him like 5 minutes to realize that they were the exact same thing. And I was just like, you could also look how many times Trump tried to take this away in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Um, and I do think like people have been doing that. I told you so, because you, myself, and everybody else that I knew, we were telling them that you're not voting for Trump for his policies, because we knew that they didn't know what his policies was. So it's like after the fact, they want to know what a tariff is. After the fact, they want to know, different things. They I think it's hard for them to admit that to themselves. So I just ask them questions until they get to that point to where they can admit it. Because if you tell them something, they don't listen. So they
No.
have to, I think has to feel it first, which is sad, because when they feel it, their children's gonna feel it, their family's gonna feel it, you know what I mean? But I think more people need to be hurt first, which is so sad, but they need to be hurt first.
I've often said that people don't react until they get pinched in the ass, and a lot of people are going to get pinched in the ass. I talked to one teacher one time who was a big MAGA supporter. I said, "So you're changing careers? What do you mean?" I said, "Well, Donald Trump's closing down the Department of Education. He's shutting down uh, money to special ed when you shut down the
Yeah.
Department of Education, and you teach special ed, don't you? Well, why would they keep you on if they aren't going to fund it anymore?" He goes, "So that's not going to happen." I go, "Yeah, it is. Take a look at it. That's exactly what he wants to do, and you voted for him. So you got to start thinking about a career change. Maybe you could start selling Trump merch on the fucking shoulder of the highway. You stupid son of a bitch." It is going to be fun
When I
laughing at
text
these
you
people crying.
yesterday, um, yeah, when I text you yesterday, that I know that there's at least one husband in the world that's finding out, because he voted for Trump, and his wife is volunteering with us because she's like, I need to be away from him. I need a break. I don't want to be near him. So she's like volunteering with us, traveling around. And then, we kind of can't pay attention to the news like that. And that's when I text you, because her husband had just let her know that the protections that Biden had put through for overtime pay, it got stricken down in Texas. And he was telling her that, and she was upset, but today she was pissed off. And the first thing she did when we got up this morning was call her attorney. She was like, yeah, I need a divorce. I'm good. And I was like, you want to think about it? She was like, nope, I don't want to think about it. I'm done. I'm good. And so it's like, well, I guess you can always like come live with me or the nuns in a convent. Like, what you gonna do? But she was just like, she was done when she found out he voted for Trump. And then she went through this whole her vote canceled his vote thing. But when she saw that Kamala lost, she just got away from him really, really quickly. And she filed for divorce today. So, or she called her attorney today to
Nice.
be done.
Well, and that's the thing is that's the interesting
Yeah.
thing. A lot of people have fucked around and found out and are getting nervous and are questioning
Yeah.
whether or not they should have voted for Donald Trump, but it's too late. Motherfucker hasn't even been in office yet. He's already getting buyer's remorse from a lot of people. What's going to happen when he takes office and attempts to do this stuff and says all these stupid and ridiculous things? I mean, that's about all we can do is hope that a government, whether it be Republican or Democrats, can hold him off or stymie him or obstruct him. All we can do is sit. Honest, people say, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to talk about the truth and I'm going to make fun of dumb motherfuckers. That's all I can really do. And the more I make fun
Did
of
you see
them, the better off they are."
what's his name, Vivek Ramaswamy, and his plan for the military? I was just like, that's not going to go over too well. But I honestly believe that they are going to attempt to do this. And the reason I believe that is this isn't like a 50-50 thing with Republicans. They are all on board with the VA benefits. And the excuses that they've been using, it's like, it's just, it to me is disgusting knowing a lot of vets, but they are basically saying like veterans are lazy. They come back here, they may have a couple of injuries, but it's not severe enough to where they can't work. And these people don't believe in science. They don't believe in mental health. So when you look at something like PTSD and that kind of trauma, they don't think that's real. They don't think that's an excuse as to why you can't go and work a job. And if sometimes people with the PTSD, they can't even like drive cars because it's a danger to themselves and everybody else on the road. But Republicans, they do not believe in that. And so I think that I think that would turn a lot of people too, especially in these crazy red areas where we're at, because they're all pro law enforcement, pro military. We'll see how they deal with this, but they got some serious plans of privatizing the VA, from what I understood.
Well,
So,
here's the thing. I don't think Vivek Ramaswamy or Elon Musk are going to be a real big factor in the upcoming 4 years. And here's why. Donald Trump appointed them to the Department of Efficiency of Government. That department does not exist. It does not exist. It's not a thing. And Donald Trump can't come into office and create a department. There is a long, drawn out process to do that. So they've acknowledged that it's outside
yeah.
the cabinet and it will advise the budget department. Well, here's the problem with Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, and I think it's already starting to take form. With Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Vivek Ramaswamy, we have three narcissists. And three narcissists can't exist
Mm-hmm.
in one space. The one with the most power will win, the others will be cast aside. And that's what we'll see. Elon Musk is not only a narcissist, but he's a goofy, awkward motherfucker. He's already running around saying, well, I got Donald Trump elected. Donnie's not going to like that very long. He's going to go the way of Laura Loomer or some of these other fucking clowns. So I'm not worried about Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy. They are a problem, but they won't be in the inner circle for very long.
Yeah, I've seen that they've been meeting with Taliban leaders, and we know that Trump is compromised, and there's some Russian assets in the government now, thanks to Trump. I'm still trying to wrap. I think when it comes to Elon and Vivek, that they were kind of given, I don't want to say a vanity project, but it's kind of like
Yeah, that's
busy
it.
work, like if you're trying to cook dinner and you give your kid a puzzle and just to keep them away. I think that's what that is for them. I just don't think that they know that. I think they're taking that very seriously as far as like slashing and cutting and doing all this other stuff. I just think that Republicans will go along with it. And part of the reason is because those two will give them an out. This was their project. This is what they did. They will, if they can blame somebody else for it, they'll roll with it. If they have to take responsibility and they can't avoid that, then they will vote against it. So we're just waiting to see what they think is good or bad. It's a horrible situation to be in for veterans. They should never have to worry about that kind of stuff, like ever.
When Donald Trump gets in, whether it be tariffs or deportations,
Yes.
how long does it take for the
Yeah.
backlash to start? I mean, we're acting as if the tariffs will start or the deportations start and run continuously for 4 years. And uh, if it starts at all, if the Republicans allow it to start,
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine it'll go very long because the backlash will be fucking huge. The public opinion will be really negative, and there will people be doing things because they're upset. Do you think they do these stupid things and they just continue with it 4 years, not caring what people think or their stance uh, with their party? They're either not going to do some of this stuff because they know ahead of time. Some of the smarter ones know ahead of time that it's going to fuck them up. I'm just thinking once he gets to be president, once that's actually happened and they've gotten what they've said, Donald Trump becomes a liability, not an add to this situation. There's nothing Donald Trump can do unless the Republicans let him do it, and they did it in the first term because they needed him in hopes to winning the second term. Now that he's won the first term, he is a lame duck. He doesn't have much
Yeah.
cachet. He doesn't have much value to the Republican Party anymore to say, fuck you, Donnie, go play in your dirty diapers and play golf. We'll run this fucking thing. And I'm not saying they're going to run it well in our for us, but they're not going to want to jump on board with that crazy bullshit.
I would hope not, but he has some pretty he's surrounding himself with it's crazy because I guess I just need to brush up on the Bible or something. But the nuns call them a den of thieves.
Yeah.
And you know, talk about that. I guess some kind of reference in the Bible to that. I don't know. But that's what they call them. So it just depends on how it affects them financially. It's the way that I'm looking at it. But also some of them are just it's just cruel, and other ones they allow their cruelty, their racism, and their sexism to like kind of like blur the larger goal here. Because that Fox News guy, he doesn't believe that women should be like we could be in the military, but kind of I guess like in secretarial roles or whatever,
Well,
but we
yeah.
shouldn't be side of those positions. So that's where his like sexism comes into play. And I think that clouds his judgment when it comes to the bigger picture. And I think because they are so vile and evil that they will slow themselves down from making as much progress as they could. I think stuff like that will kind of get in the way. Donald Trump, it really just depends on how you sell it to him. Tell him he gonna come out looking great, he'll go for it. Tell him it's gonna make him look bad, and he might think twice about it.
Right.
But at the same time, maybe not because he is compromised by Putin. So it depends on what Putin says too. This is a
Yeah.
side note. I notice what's happening. Now I'm thinking about him being Putin's puppet, but like in these red areas, they call him Daddy Trump. Like the alpha male guys, they call him Daddy Trump. Have you heard? Did you know that they do that?
I've heard
It's
something
so
about
weird to
that. I've heard something about that. And if I heard that, I go, wow, that's a little homoerotic,
yeah, but
which would
Trump's
drive them
daddy,
nuts.
yeah, Trump's daddy is Putin. So it's gonna depend on Putin's sway, especially with the people in the government that we already know as assets. If they can get to Trump and kind of like force his hand a little bit, that could sway things too. It's just so unpredictable. It really is because none of these people are stable. They all crazy.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we've talked about is Donald Trump is 78 years old. He's not very healthy mentally or physically. I don't know that anybody believes that be, uh, um, he'll make it through the 4 years. I have hopes he doesn't make it to the inauguration,
Oh God, I hope.
but we have to consider that too. If Donald Trump ends up getting marginalized by his own group because they don't need him anymore, or he falls ill,
Yeah.
or he dies, or whatever. Not that I hope he dies, but my fingers are crossed. Um, but 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 that's going to change everything too. As much as JD Vance isn't a great option, I think it's a more stable
Yeah.
option to go through the bullshit. Uh, Donald, I think we're making Donald Trump more of a boogeyman than he should be because there's going to be a lot of people around him, Republicans who stood behind him for a long time, but there's no money in it for him right now. There's no money in it for him.
Mhm.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And as I've always said, one of the things you've got to consider is that if you look back to the first 4 years, there's one thing that's absolutely certain. He's incompetent, he's inept, he fucks up all the time. And as I've said back then,
Yeah.
and somebody corrected me on one thing, and I have to acknowledge that. You think of all the things he did in the first term, he didn't do a lot of the things he wanted to do. He got the tax cut for the rich. And somebody says, yeah, but he killed 1 million people with COVID. And I'll grant you that. That is true. I hold Donald Trump responsible for those deaths. A lot of them are
Mhm.
deaths with people who refused to get vaccinated, and they were Republicans, and the Republicans that died from COVID. Oh, well, shit happens. But innocent people died too. And that is solely put on the shoulders of Donald Trump. But do you understand what
Yeah.
I
How does
mean?
the country? Like that is an absolute deal breaker for me. You get people killed unnecessarily because of your ego. It's a deal breaker. But half of this country is just like, well, it happens. That's crazy.
Well, half of this
That's
country
crazy.
thinks it was a hoax. A million people died, but it's a hoax. But they're still talking about the 13
Yeah.
guys in Afghanistan when Joe Biden did exactly what Donald Trump set up to do. That's
Yeah.
the inequity there. You know, they're not. You're not in a position to argue with them because they can't comprehend the truth or facts or anything. What do you think about all these people? Now they're crying, the fuck around and find out thing. They're all crying about, well, my family won't talk to me. People won't come to my store. The whole idea of just cutting them out completely. I think that's an interesting thing that's happening. And I think it's going to happen more. I know I do it. There's no point in arguing with them now. The election is over. So fuck them. Go your way, I'll go our way. But they're not
Yeah.
liking it much.
I mean, I wouldn't like it either. Jesse Waters, and his mother is like saying, you're not invited to Thanksgiving. You know, I think that they're so selfish that they don't understand that you could cause this much damage to this, and I mean like knowingly. So you look at somebody like Jesse Waters, he knows what's up. And he still dug his heels in on the propaganda, had a hand in what we know we're about to go through. And he doesn't think that he can do that and nobody is going to feel some type of way about it. Like, we're just not supposed to care about all of the bad that they did. And I
Yeah,
think that's why they're struggling with it. I think people like Joe Rogan, I don't like to prey on somebody's downfall, but I would like to see him fall all the way off. I'm
absolutely.
surprised that his audience isn't, because he did a podcast laughing like, hey, come to find out the election wasn't stolen. Trump lied to us the whole time. He just sat over here a week ago and lied for 3 hours straight. Ha ha ha. How is that funny? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I think that some people, they just don't take it seriously until it affects them. And I think Joe Rogan is like one of those people where his viewership will have to fall off. Maybe he would lose some advertisers and some sponsors or something, and maybe he will see the light. But for us regular people, unfortunately, they just gonna have to feel it like more than my family isn't talking to me. It has to be my family isn't talking to me. I lost my job and I can't go stay with my family. What am I gonna do? Like they have to experience all of that before they get it. So it's not enough that your family don't talk to you. Well, I still got a job. I still got my house. I got a couple friends. I'm cool. But you like literally have to have a ripple effect where you're losing, losing, losing. And then I think that will make them turn their change a little bit, possibly. Because I don't think a lot of them, we were so divided as a country. I don't think a lot of them messed with their family like that anyway, because they were Democrats or they were Trump supporters or whatever. So I don't think that's enough to do it.
I'm
I don't
just
know
gonna
why they crying online about it though, because what you crying for?
I'm just gonna say, Joe Rogan has said he's just some idiot knucklehead, and I'd have to agree with him. The important thing to understand about Rogan, he might find his own fuck around and find out moment because he moved his operation from California to Texas, Austin, Texas, and he has two prepubescent daughters, Lola and Rosie. I hope nothing happens to those
Needs to
poor girls,
be.
but if it does, Joe's going to fuck around and find out.
That's not a good place to be because right
No,
now Elon Musk is building some weird compound out there for his children and the women that have his children. His father is so gross. I guess the apple don't fall far from the tree because his stepdaughter that he helped raise since she was 3 is now pregnant with his child. So a compound full of guys like that and girls in the state of Texas where they have proven not to care about women, it's not a good idea. And I think that would be a huge mistake for Joe Rogan to take his daughters out there.
well, they're there already.
It's
So
kind of like
we'll
it's a predator's playground in Texas. Trust me, I know. There's guys that's like pointing at girls and telling them, wait till January 20th. I got my eye on you. And these are little girls and they're scared. And I haven't met a MAGA mom yet that I haven't wanted to smack in the face. Like I haven't met one. A couple times I had to walk away because when you hear stuff like, yeah, I didn't vote for Kamala because I couldn't go behind my husband's back, or I couldn't go against the church. But did you tell them that you here getting implants for your daughter have birth control right now?
Yeah.
You didn't have no problem going behind their back doing that.
Yeah.
And you don't have a problem preparing them for the abuse that they're about to get in the church that you take them to all the time. It's really hard for me to wrap my mind around the mental gymnastics that these women do, and they kind of offer these girls up like they can't protect them when they can. They just choose not to.
You know, you bring up a good point here. What you're talking about, these MAGA moms giving their daughters implants because the
Yeah.
possibility of being raped and being stuck with a pregnancy from your rapist. It seems to me there's kind of parallels with these MAGA fucks with this abortion situation and gun laws.
Yeah.
With school shootings, for example, their answer is to put stronger doors and give teachers guns. In the case with this abortion issue, give give them implants so they don't get pregnant. It's almost as if they're saying, well, the school shootings are going to happen. The rapes are going to happen. We just have to
Yeah.
protect ourselves. When any reasonably minded person would say, "Hey, how about we stop the the mass shootings? How about we stop the rapes?" They're like, "Go ahead, do what you want to do, but we're going to protect ourselves when it happens." That's absurd to even imagine that.
Yeah. They asked Greg Abbott about um the victims who've been like assaulted, minors, incest, that type of stuff. And he just shrugged his shoulders and said, yeah, we'll just stop rapes. He never gave anybody any idea on how he was going to do that. The backlog that they have of DNA testing is just like out of control, but he can take $10 million and bus some immigrants to another state. You know what I mean?
Right.
So his priority is not there on protecting these women and these girls. Quite frankly, he doesn't care. He doesn't even work on the backlog of it. I think that in some of these areas, it's just going to have to be a way of life. And they are using the great replacement theory as an excuse, but that's not an excuse because there's fully grown women who are white that's walking around, and you could have your blonde hair, blue eyed children that you want. Why are you targeting children and little girls? I think like the worst thing I saw was like in Arkansas, like they like lowered the age of like that you can work or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like it to me in Vegas, like seeing like a 15 or 16-year-old like walking around Hooters working,
Right.
that baffled my brain the first time I saw that. Like, what the heck are you doing in Hooters with that outfit on? Like, that's just me. But to them, it's like normal. And when you do that, you don't have to feed children at school because, when you're 14, you can go get a job now, that type of stuff. So I think that they're so backwards in their thinking, but, a lot of these churches have convinced them that that's the way to go. I don't understand it,
Now,
but
now, the one thing I want to
it's
say
just
about
their.
the child labor laws and dropping them to ridiculous levels, there's two stages
Yeah,
here. The government can choose not to protect children by making the child labor laws very young, okay? But it still
yeah,
comes down to the parents' choice. They aren't forcing kids to work. The only way those kids are going to work is if if the parents say, "Yeah, you're 14, go ahead and work at Hooters." So it's
yeah,
the parents themselves that are going to put these kids in that situation. Now, normal situations, if they try to do that, they probably get arrested or get the kids taken away from them. But in the states that have this, there's going to be a degradation in society as they do these things. And they're going to have to pay a price eventually. When you've got young kids doing whatever because parents don't give a fuck and neither does the government, this is not going to
yeah,
work in a positive way for that state. I know there's travel advisories for people of color to Florida, probably
Yeah.
Texas too. I think it's fair to say whether you're
Mhm.
white or black or whatever, going and staying in Florida is not a, or Texas, not a good idea. It's not a safe environment. Now, today, as you're
Mm-mm.
listening to this, because I don't have a direct flight to Savannah, I have to fly to Jacksonville, which is in the upper right
Mhm.
hand corner of the state. I'm going to get out of that airport. I'm going to get in the car and get the fuck out of Florida as quickly as I can. It's the only option I have. But I will tell you this, when you're in Florida, you have this one sense. And then when you get to Georgia, it's better. And when you get to Savannah, it's normal. But Florida, Texas, who the
Mhm.
fuck wants to go there? They depend on tourism, but there's going to be at least half this country going, fuck, I don't need that.
Yeah, because they are like, especially with Trump having a trifecta, to them, it's like, this is our country now. This is like ours now. And it's like, we gave them, you know, we gave them that talking point. I've noticed a lot of Republicans do that too. Anytime someone asks them a legitimate question, like, mass deportation is $88 billion a year. So it's not, 88 billion and that's it. Like that's per year. Like, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to do all of these things? And they just say, well, it was a decisive win. This is what the American people voted for. This is what they want. And so we have to deliver on those promises. And they all stick to that script. And as sad as it is, that isn't a script that we can argue against because, yeah, they did vote for the House, the Senate, and the White House. And you were telling them that this is exactly what you want to do. So it's not like they didn't know that before they voted for it. You know what I mean? So that's the talking point. That's their justification for the cruelty that they're about to unleash. And I do think that, if you go back to Mike Johnson, some of the things that he says, and JD Vance as well, is you don't need social security if you're working. So if the children are working, the adults are working, when you get too old and you can't work anymore, then your whole family is working, so you should just be able to stay home and not have to worry about social security or any of this other stuff.
Yeah.
So that has a part in them lowering the age to work. And then when you think about no safety nets, parents will be desperate enough for their children to work, whether, they're one of these people right now who doesn't have a problem with it versus people who do have a problem with it. At some point, you're not really going to have a choice if it gets that desperate where we have to eat, we have to pay rent, and one or two people can't do it on their salaries. So children are going to have to go through that. And I do think that's the plan for the children.
Well,
Well, for
we're,
the boys anyway. For the girls, they got more disgusting things for them.
well, the thing with Donald Trump is a lazy motherfucker. He doesn't like to work. He doesn't like to do anything. And there are people
He,
around him that will do some work. But I wonder sometimes, the whole deportation thing, the whole border thing, that was a big talking point for the Republicans to win the election. They won the election.
mm-hmm.
In order to do what they want to do, it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of work and a lot of dicking around. I think it's possible that they say, yeah, we're going to do that. And they keep telling you they're going to do it, but they don't have the wherewithal to actually put it together. I'm hoping that's the case because Donald Trump is known for not following up on the deportations, all that shit. He doesn't care about it now. He got what he wanted. The people around him may
Mm-hmm.
want it, but will they have the wherewithal to pull it together? I don't know. I don't know. And will the Republicans who stand up against him really give a fuck what Donald Trump says now? As I say, his value has dropped decidedly once they got what they wanted. Everything that Donald Trump said to anybody goes by the wayside. We know he lies. He doesn't need them anymore. Um, I think Donald Trump
Yeah.
sits on his ass and plays golf all the time and maybe talks every so often so he can get some applause. I don't know that he's going to be a direct factor in the next 4 years, but you're right. We have to be aware of the other people. But any of those other people stand out and get more press than he does, they're going to be fucking gone no matter what they've done. It's really a psychological mess in that group
Yeah,
of people.
I think when it comes to the members of Congress, what will cause them to push back, for the little bit that I can anticipate that they do, is once the economy is to a state to where their donors are starting to feel it, and then that's when they will get the pressure to maybe push back on some of this stuff. um
You think it'll take
that's what I've always thought, is
you think it'll
that,
take them to get burned before they do anything?
yeah, if they start losing money, if their donors start losing money and they start feeling that type of pressure, then that could cause them to, not do it for us, of course, but to do it for themselves and to make sure that, their fat rats and their children are good. Like, I don't think they have a problem with watching us suffer and
No.
thinking that, that's what we're supposed to go through. They start to feel it, it could be different. And that's what could cause them to push back. And I also think that it'll be up to Democrats too, because they can kind of, like lay down and just take this crap. And I don't understand that at all. Like, you need to start swinging. Somebody get in your space, don't let them hit you first. You swing. They in your personal space. I would like to see, instead of them pointing fingers and trying to see what went wrong and what happened, I would love for the Democrats to sit down and be like, okay, this is what happened. This is how we're going to deal with it. And I don't see them doing that yet. I think we're still on our own right now.
Yeah. I mean, I know what I think about this, but I'm curious as to what you think. Part of the reason is Donald Trump. Part of the reason is dumb fucks that vote for Donald Trump. I happen to think that the way Democrats do business and the relative
Mm-hmm.
weakness in comparison to the Republicans has a lot to do with where we're at now. Do you kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, definitely. For sure. I think, like, everybody's playing the same game, but everybody is playing by different rules.
Yeah.
Even Obama made that point where everybody said Trump sent them a check. Nobody talked about the check that Biden sent,
Yeah.
because you do have to brag on yourself a little bit. I completely get Biden on that because I have a difficult time doing that. But I mean, that's where a good PR person comes in. Every time you do something, you should be bragging about it. Every time some student debt relief goes through, you should be bragging about it. And it just wasn't in him to do so. And then I was thinking about Kamala's loss. The more I think about it, the more that I understand why she lost. Because I think you had the people who were saying genocide Joe, that was all for Palestine. They were like, well, we could withhold our vote because she'll have the black vote, she'll have the white woman vote, and she'll have this vote over here. But then you turn around and you see the far left, and they're saying, well, we can hold our vote because she's going to have the black woman vote, she's going to have the white woman vote, she's going to have this vote. So everybody thought that they could hold their vote because they assumed that everybody else will vote for her. So you have a whole bunch of people assuming that everybody else is going to vote for her, but they're all on different wavelengths. So they need to learn how to communicate and message so that things like that doesn't happen anymore. And then when you add on top of that this propaganda machine that the right has. They have social media platforms. They have influencers who are paid by Russia. They have like Fox News, who's the most watched news station in the world, and for some strange reason is still on our military bases. The propaganda machine is crazy, and we don't have anything like that.
Right.
So we do need to get our messaging out there, but also, I don't want to say propaganda, but point out what the Republicans are doing, like the facts and the truth about what's going on, and then give them a solution, but a simple solution. I do think Kamala Harris has simple solutions though, with the 50,000 for the down payment. We're going to help you start your business. We're going to cut the red tape, start building houses. She had simple solutions, but the fact that people went to vote and they saw Kamala Harris and not Joe Biden and they were confused, that lets us know that it didn't reach the people that it needed to reach.
Well, and
And, people are just lazy. They're not going to look for information. You kind of have to, like, literally like feed it into their brains every chance that you get.
I place a lot of blame at the feet of the far left because, like you said, they thought, well, it'll be okay. We'll just prove our point. We'll make a protest. We want what we want. We want it all right now, but we're going to pout if we don't get it. They were bleeding and crying for those poor people in Gaza, the Palestinians. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
By your pouting, you're going to get those people wiped out. And it's sad. It's sad that that's
Mm.
happening. But those far left people that voted against Kamala or didn't vote at all, it's on them. It's really on them.
Yeah.
And they need to be taken to task for it. It's, we see it in Congress too, where the far left won't vote for something because they know it's going to pass anyways to prove their point. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Just make the smart
Yeah.
vote. Just make the smart vote. Why take any risks? I'm tired of that positioning and that posturing bullshit for their own political value. Fuck you. You're at fault now. It's
Yeah.
your fault that Palestinians are
I
going to
thought with
die by the thousands.
I thought with them, like during the primaries, them doing the uncommitted and all of that stuff, I thought that that was them,
Yeah.
making their voices heard. I didn't think would roll the dice with Donald Trump. This isn't like Mitt Romney or Liz Cheney. Like this is Donald Trump. So why would you hold your vote and assume that other people are going to vote for it? That works in Congress when if it's a health care proposal or something, the rest of the Democrats are going to go for it. So you sit it out. That's different than when it's a general election. It's Donald Trump on the line. It's women's health and our freedom on the freaking line. It's stopping Russia from getting their assets in our government. Why would you take that chance? I didn't think that they were that selfish enough to do that. And then common sense, like when I was raised, it's like you have to take care of home first. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to help you pay your rent and I ain't paid mine yet. So
Right.
you're working with women in this country with our freedom on the line. On top of that, our whole entire immigrant community, the LGBTQ community, you're going to overlook your own country and then you focus solely on another country. Not saying you can't focus on that, but Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, you can push them to do what you want them to do. You're not pushing Trump on nothing. So
Right.
why would you? How would he be an alternative to your cause? And I just when I heard that guy say like, "Hey, there's no such thing," like, "Hey, we're just gonna," and he had a hat on where it was like, "Make Israel great again" or some crap. You know how creative they are. And he's
Right.
pretty much bragging about the fact that they're looking forward to wiping out the entire West Bank. And I'm like, these are children, these are women, these are innocent people. And he's standing in front of a crowd of people bragging about it, and they are just clapping. And I'm like, these people don't give a damn about nobody except for
No.
themselves in their own pockets.
And now these people on the
How
left
did
that voted against him, they're freaking out now. Please,
how do
Joe,
you
help us. Help us, Joe. Fuck
Mhm.
you. He's tried to help you. He can only do so much, and it wasn't enough for you. So you rolled the dice on thousands, maybe tens of thousands of Palestinians. You rolled the dice, you lost, but you still get to sleep in your bed, and those poor people have to fucking suffer and die. I hope you live with that for the rest of your life because there is no excuse for your stupidity.
Yeah, I've been seeing those pleas from people. Like, I don't know what they want Joe Biden to do, first of all, but they're like, you have to act now. You have to do something before Trump get in. And there's no accountability at all whatsoever. The only person I saw mildly take accountability was Mehdi Hassan, because he was saying, I can't tell people how to vote. I'm saying this is how I'm voting and this is why I'm voting it that way. But what he said was he wished that he would have said, you need to vote for Kamala Harris. And the reason you need to vote for her is because Donald Trump will have them wiped out. So
Yeah.
he feels like he did the thing, but he could have swayed the far left to do the right thing, and he didn't. He left them to their own free will to make that decision. And now we see how far that went. They just very selfish, only cared about themselves. And they know even Nikki Haley was over there signing bombs that they were going to drop on hospitals and children, like these people, they don't care. So for them to take that gamble, I don't get it. I know if it was me, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I don't know how they sleeping. And begging Joe Biden, there's absolutely nothing he can do because BB is sitting there and he is like, "Yep, I'm just waiting. I'm trying to get to January 20th." He's just running the clock out. That's all he's doing.
The
There's
only
no negotiating with him at this point because he already knows his homeboy is to come in and just let him have it.
The only
insane.
thing, the only thing I'm thinking of with Bibi Netanyahu though is there is no motivation for him to end the war. As long as the war's going on, he's safe. He's not going to get kicked out. He's not going to go to jail. So by him going wiping out
Yeah,
Hamas and everybody, that would end the war. And here he is, vulnerable again. I mean, he's going to do some horrible stuff, and he's not going to worry about the Palestinians anymore. But I don't think
yeah,
this is going to be a mass bombing right away. It's going to be elongated for a long fucking time in order for Bibi Netanyahu to figure out some way out of his mess, because that's what this is all about. This is about all about his safety. He's risking and sacrificing people's lives so his political value stays intact. And the left,
yeah,
every time somebody from the far left comes to me, I'm going to say, but you fucked up. You killed a bunch of people. Don't tell me you're a bleeding heart liberal when you fucking do that. That's stupid.
yeah. And I know one thing that Trump is not going to do that Biden does is give aid. I
Oh,
don't
hell
think Trump
no.
is going to give it all. Those the children are already just starving, and like a little baby starving to death. Like that is insane to me.
Fucking appalling.
Biden will at least aid, and Trump is not going to give them aid. So
No.
whether they starve to death, whether they just die from poverty, it's either going to happen quickly or it's just going to be like a slow, prolonged death,
Right.
which is just it's to think about that. But
And that's what I think
that's
it's
what
more likely because I don't think Bibi wants it over quick. I just don't think he does. I think he wants this to go as long as it can go so he can stay in his position. I may be wrong about that, but either way it's horrible because thousands of people are going to die because they don't fucking care. And the
yeah,
left side liberals or the far left side liberals, that's why, I sometimes think that the far right and the far left have some similarities, not in their ideology, but in their behavior. They're over the
yeah,
top. I want what I want now, and if you don't, I'm going to stomp my feet and not do anything. Fucking tiring.
yeah. They are both very extreme, and they don't understand the word progress. It
No.
has to be immediate and it has to be exactly the way that they want it. There's always give and take no matter what the situation is, especially when it comes to policies. You're not going to get 100% of what you want in every policy. You just have to make progress as you go.
Right,
And
right,
what she was asking for a ceasefire and she was pushing for that, but they couldn't see beyond their own immediate need. And they'll never see that happen, which is it's the opposite of what they wanted. Will they learn a lesson? If they're anything like the far right, no, they're not. They're
no.
just gonna find another cause to politicize, I guess is how you would say it.
You know what I find interesting too, when we talk about the prospect of tariffs, the short memory of farmers. Farmers voted for Donald Trump, and
Yeah,
he had tariffs on soybeans, if you remember that. And what happened was there were tens of thousands of tons of soybeans that rotted in the fields in this country. The farmers were broke. They were committing suicide. There was all kinds of horrible things. He finally bailed them out with $58 billion, but even that wasn't enough because a lot of the smaller farmers didn't get any money. Only the bigger farmers did, and there was more suicides because of that. You can go through that, less than 8 years ago. You can go through that and still
mm-hmm.
hear him talk about tariffs and decide that you're going to vote for him. I mean, sometimes people like this just deserve to get their ass kicked.
I saw someone interviewing a farmer about the tariffs and what happened previously. And he said the most dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. He said, well, yeah, it was rough there for a while, but, I have my farm now because Trump came through with that bailout.
Yeah.
Oh, you
So,
wouldn't have needed a bailout if we wouldn't have started this stupid trade war. And
yeah,
then we already know there's going to be retaliatory, from our imports and our exports. So for him, and then he didn't think for a second that the only reason Trump gave them a bailout is because he wanted them to vote for him in the next election. That was
right.
the absolute only reason. So if he has no reason to bail you out this time, you think he gonna care and bail you out again? Like that was his logic. Well, yeah, he came. It was rough, but he bailed us out. We good now. I think what he said. Oh, he made us whole. That's what he said. The dead farmers, their families, do they feel whole? No. Those farmers whose farm went under, do they feel whole? No. But he felt whole. His farm was okay. He got his bailout. So to hell with everybody else. The selfishness of these people is beyond belief.
What is
So
it?
I
And
think
what if I
feel
had
it
the
and
if I had the opportunity to talk to these people and they said something like that to me, I said,
yeah,
so you're fine with being a welfare king or a welfare queen because that's what you are. You allowed him to fuck you over, you got your welfare, and now you're cool with it. But you want to take
yeah,
away help from people who actually need it. You're a welfare state. This is why when this happens, he's not going to bail them out. They're
mm-mm,
going to fry, and I'm going to have zero sympathy for these fucks. Anybody that voted for Donald Trump and goes through pain, they deserve it.
yeah. I watch Eric like at night, especially like he give it like his lives, or I'll just put his clips and like play afterwards. And
Yeah.
his favorite one is Chuck. I'm older than chocolate chip Grassley. I like was laughing because I was like, what the heck did he get that from? And then he responded in the comment section and told me when Chuck Grassley was born versus when we had our first chocolate chip recipe or whatever.
Chocolate
And
chip
I'm like,
cookie.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, like what is older than this guy Dirt? But he is another one of these people who is like out here promoting Trump, telling his people, his farmers, to vote for Trump when he knows that these tariffs are going to take these people under.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
even know how he got reelected after he supported Trump and the tariffs the first time. And then they re-elected him again.
Well,
It's like
we talked about it
they
earlier. They're stupid.
yeah, they like this is somebody who told you to vote for Trump. This is somebody who hyped Trump up. This is somebody who wasn't fighting against those tariffs at that time. I think he'll fight now, but at the time he didn't. And so not only do you reelect him, but you reelect Trump too. It's like I think that the like for them it is kind of like a religion. Like if it's an R next to their name and they're on the ticket, we don't care what they do to us, but we are not voting for a Democrat. We are going to vote Republican, no matter what it costs us, no matter what happened to our families, no matter if we go bankrupt, whatever. We are going to vote for a Republican. Like they will vote against their own selves every single time.
Yeah.
I do not get that. I don't
It
get that.
it makes no
And
sense.
this is not Chuck, almost 100 years old now.
Well, the thing about it
They don't
is
even want
the thing about it is I know you're a compassionate person, and I'm certainly nowhere near as
nobody.
compassionate as you are. I'm compassionate when it comes to people who deserve some compassion, but people who don't deserve compassion. And there's very few things to look forward to with the prospect of Donald Trump being president. And
Yeah.
this may sound sick, but I'm going to take special joy in watching Trumplafucks suffer mightily. I'm going to giggle my fucking ass off every time, and I'm going to laugh in their face because, as much as a lot of people were sad after Donald Trump got elected, I wasn't sad. I don't get sad about stuff like that. I was fucking pissed. I was
Yeah.
furious. I'm not going to deal with Trumplafucks, but I got to tell you, if one walks up to me and talks to me, I was never pleasant in the first place to him. I'm going to be especially unpleasant. I'm not going to worry about their feelings. It's just, I'm angry about this thing. I'm angry about the stupidity. I'm angry about what this country is allowing to
Mhm.
happen to it. And somebody's got, I mean, we all have to be
Yeah.
mad and start fighting dirty if we fucking have to.
Yeah. What made me like say, okay, I can't sit here and be sad anymore is I told you when, Donald Trump came out with his reparations for white people. And I was like, oh, that's the heck, that's weird, I felt some type of way about it, but it's not above Donald Trump to do that. But my TT called me and she was just crying on the phone. And I was like, yeah, I kind of have to get up and do something because, you know, it's going to affect more people than what we know, just a ripple effect. And these red states are going to feel it quicker and harder than the rest of us because
Absolutely.
these benefits can't wait to cut these benefits. Like they have a hard on just thinking about cutting benefits from people. And the red states are the ones who benefit the most from it. They're the
Right.
ones who get the most government assistance. Not blue states, like we contribute the most to these benefits. And those people are going to suffer. And one thing I told my teacher to calm her down was, okay, yeah, he's going after the endowments and all of this stuff with the schools with the DEI. And you have all these white people in these red states thinking, okay, yeah, we're going to get our check, the DEI checks or whatever. Y'all think y'all gonna get that money? Trump is gonna take this endowment money from these universities, and do you think he's gonna cut you a check, or do you think he's gonna put that money in his pocket? These people right now are expecting to get like endowment checks for DEI and diversity and all of these other programs, right? They think Trump is going to go to these employers, go to these universities, get all of this money, come into these red states and give them checks. They really believe that.
Oh,
They
I know.
honestly believe that.
I will
When I
make,
talked to my teacher, yeah, she laughed. I was like,
yeah.
oh, yeah, they think they get, and she was like, wait, what? I was like, what you can say is like, he's going to grift under the name of reparations for white people or however he wants to spin it. But you should be able to laugh to know that these people are not going to get any of that money. It's going straight to his pocket. And that did make her laugh. She was like, well, if we can't get it, they can't get it either.
Well,
I don't
well,
want Trump to have it. I might be, I don't know, I shouldn't act like that, but I think I'm gonna be a little uplifted when I see these people waiting for them checks that's not coming. They think
I,
it's coming too.
in spite of what I said about Kamala winning, I'm going to make a prediction that I can almost guarantee is going to happen. All these people love Donald Trump because they got their check, even though Joe Biden gave him a check. In the next four
Yeah,
years, ain't nobody getting a check except Donald Trump. I mean, nobody's
yeah,
getting a check besides Donald Trump. And uh, these red states, they are going to get hurt the worst. And it's going to be
yeah,
interesting to see how they react to it. Uh, these people have trouble admitting they're wrong. So what are they
mm-hmm.
going to just sit there and take it? I mean, I'm in a blue state. You're in kind of a blue state. Um, it's going to affect people like us less than it affects those red states. But I hope it's
Yeah.
fucking unbelievably painful. And when they are begging for help, go talk to Daddy Trump. Have him help you because we're busy.
Yeah, I think that they have this idea of people who live off of the government and they think that they are in the minority in that and they're not. Um, yeah, that's only thing that I can't get fully excited for is because I know in each one of these situations, there's children, there's disabled people, there's
Yeah.
elderly people that will get caught up in that. Um, but like I have to tell myself like focus on what I'm doing right now and not focus on that because I'm not in control of
Right. We
the
didn't do it.
decisions that they make in their state. Yeah, I can come in and help, but I don't have to live here and deal with the consequences of y'all's votes and decisions because those people are gonna hurt severely.
Well, I think where
Uh,
the
I
ignorance
can't even.
comes, I think where the ignorance comes in, they honestly believe that all the negative is only going to apply to the Democrats and not to them, like you were saying before.
Yeah,
They're gonna be sorely disappointed because that's not it. If you cut a program or a benefit or something like that, it's going to affect everybody. You can't section it out saying, "Oh, we don't want to do this for the red states, just the blue states." You can't do that. It's not going to
yeah,
happen. And I got to tell you, if you got an old couple sitting in Texas, struggling, dealing with the benefits, healthcare, whatever they are, and I'm sitting here in Minnesota, I'm going to do a lot better and I'm going to last a lot longer than they are. And you know what? I don't have one tear to shed for them. They deserve what they're going to get.
I'm willing to bet. that these pastors are not going to, get rid of, one or two of their private jets to make sure that their congregation are fed, housed, and clothed. That's not going to happen. Like these people preach politics and they get away with so much because you go to church and like if you're a girl getting abused in a church, but you see the sheriff sitting on the second row with his family, or every time the police station need new cars or body cam footage or bulletproof vest or something like that, your church is giving them money. Like they let these people know in a roundabout way, like we connected over here, you can call the police if you want to, it's not going down like that.
Right.
I would like to see them lose not their faith, but lose some of that energy that they have for these churches and these pastors. And maybe they can wake up and see, yeah, he's in a mansion. He has like 3 private jets. His bank account is fat. His belly is fat and full, and you're hurting. And I don't know if that is going to make them like understand that what they're being told is wrong, but something has to give with these churches in these states. Like they have taken over and influence these people's politics into voting for something that is not in their best interest. It's so weird.
What
It's
what
so weird.
what I said just a minute ago, this is something that pisses people off, and it's justifiable. I will admit it's justifiable. When I say these red states, when they suffer, I'll giggle my ass off. Now, the problem with that is something you brought up.
I'm not gonna.
The problem with saying that is that there are people that are Democrats that are good people that live in those states who will also suffer, and I
Mhm.
understand that. The problem is your state chose to do this, as our country chose to go with Donald Trump. As much as I don't want it to be, whatever Donald Trump does is going to affect me. And I don't expect any tears from me. I expect to fight to change that situations. It's not that we don't have compassion from people in Texas and Florida that are good people. The only thing I would suggest, and it's almost impossible for a lot of people, if I live in a place that could be harmful to my family, I'm finding a way to get the fuck out of there. Now, I know that's
Yeah.
easier said than done because people don't have the money or the flexibility to do that. But we spent I spent 4 years every day talking about Trump-a-fucks and all the bad things he could do. I've done as much as I can do. You've done way more than anybody could expect you to do. As much as I will have compassion for those people in those states, we're put in a situation now where there's nothing we can do about it. We can scream, we can cry, we can yell, but we can't do anything. And it's a sad situation that we can't, but we can't because 50% of this country voted for this bullshit. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, they're going to have to go through some pain in order to fucking change it, apparently.
Yeah. I've never been in a position with these girls to where I couldn't help. Like the only thing that I can do is like minimize the damage. Like
Right, right. That's all you
it's
can
like, oh,
do.
I can't even see. That's all I can do. And it's up to the people to vote differently. Their states didn't end up this way by accident. Like as a whole, as a majority, these are decisions that they made. When you think about Ted Cruz and Chuck, older than chocolate chip Grassley, or what's that other one that Eric say all the time? Jim, I don't report sex crimes, Jordan. Like
Right.
these are the people that nobody likes. Don't even like him, but yet you would vote for him and his policies, what he stands for, and you can look and see what he didn't do the past, however many years he was in there. So I think that their mindset has to change to where, okay, I'm going to vote for my state as a whole, and I'm not going to vote just because this is who my pastor told me to vote for. I don't even know how people fall for that. Kamala Harris is a demon and Donald Trump is the second coming. I don't even know how they make that make sense in their minds. But
Right.
I think once I don't know, I guess they will just have to hurt. Like ever
It's
since you said
sad,
that, I've
but you're
been
right.
fighting that so hard. Ever since you said that, like people don't have to hurt. We can figure this out. And now that I'm in the middle of it, no, they're gonna have to hurt. There's nothing else that we could do to help them. And even if we did, then that's not going to change anything. If we could
No.
come in here and just make everything okay, then they would turn around and vote for the same crap all over again. So they have to be motivated. And it's sad that fear and poverty and worry is what's going to have to motivate them instead of seeing what it could be without all of this crap. It's sad. It's really
This
sad.
the saddest thing about war, and make no mistake, right now we're in a war. We had the war on
Mm-hmm.
drugs, we had Vietnam. This is a war against authoritarianism. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, when there's a war, this is why war isn't a good thing to have, in spite of the fact that's what the Republicans wanted. When there is war, there's always collateral damage. There's always innocent people hurt or killed. And it's the
Yeah.
saddest thing in the world. But this has been
Yeah.
put on this country, and people say, well, we should do this. We've been trying to do things for 4 years to avoid this situation. We thought we did everything we could to avoid it, but to no
Yeah.
avail. Donald Trump got elected. Um, when it comes, people with the election, so a few people blame me for Kamala losing, which is fucking ridiculous. Um, I voted, my whole family voted, and I talked about this shit as much as I can do. I don't know what more I can do. The fact that I was wrong, well, okay, I was wrong, but everybody was wrong based on the
Mm-hmm.
facts. The fault of Kamala losing was Democrats stepped on their own dick. They fucked it up themselves by not coming out and voting. And as much as I would like to see it have gone a different way, it hasn't. And now we can't say, what if, could we, should we? We got to deal with what we got now. And it's not a pleasant situation, but we got to make the best of it we can going forward.
We were wrong, but people forget that Republicans was wrong too. So was Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They had all their attorneys fired up, ready to go. They had already made their excuses. We had already stole the election before it happened. So even they thought he was going to lose. He was just going to walk around whining, bitching, complaining until he went to prison. But he was surprised when he came
Yeah.
out. He just was like so surprised, like, what? Y'all this stupid? And that's saying something coming from Donald Trump. But I also think another war that we have to battle is an information war.
Yeah.
People don't believe in like basic facts. They don't believe in science. They don't believe in immunizations, which is just kind of, I don't get parents that don't believe. Like, I was vaccinated, and so are the rest of these parents too. But now all of a sudden that their children are born, it's like, oh, yeah, I really don't believe in vaccinations anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't think they know the damage of polio. I was like looking that up, and it's like it can cause all kind of nerve damage. You just see like old pictures of people with polio and stuff, and it's like I did not know it was that bad. Only thing I knew is that Michael Jackson's mother had a limp for her whole life because she had polio. That's
Right.
the only thing I knew about it. But you combine this with, we don't even know how clean our drinking water is going to be. It's insane that people would not want to do everything they can to protect their children.
Yeah.
So those children are going to have to suffer. Their parents, for some strange reason, let RFK Jr., and you look at him and you can see he's on steroids. Just look at the veins.
Yeah.
They let this idiot with his brain tell them what's best for their children when we have decades on decades of decades and we can see certain diseases being eradicated, and they just want to bring it back and build up immunizations naturally, whatever the heck that means. It's like we care about their children more than they do.
Yeah.
But I will say though, now that RFK has been like in control of the Department of Health. That's why we were so busy today. All of these parents that didn't want their children to be vaccinated, now all of a sudden they're running down to the bus, getting these kids vaccinated, which
Yeah.
lets me know is they knew the whole time. They just, I don't know, wanted to go against the grain and be treated special or different. I don't know. But now they don't want to risk it, which is a good thing. But I don't like seeing a little baby get 2 shots in this arm, 2 shots here, 2 shots here, 2 shots here, because their parents didn't get them vaccinated. It's
Right.
insane to just do that type of stuff. But
Well, we're gonna
they
why
scared too. They just
yeah, they're terrified and they're gonna be more terrified, and frankly, they deserve it. Um,
Yeah.
we're going to wrap up the
I
rush.
do.
I'm
Hold
sorry.
on. My daughter, she told me to say this
Okay.
because I'm on social media, but there's some trend, some black girl started it. So she went to her therapist, and I guess she had been with her therapist for like 6 years or something. And she asked her therapist if her therapist voted for Trump, and her therapist said yes. So she left her therapist. And so now they have these other black folks going up to their therapist, asking them if they voted for Trump. And if they did vote for Trump, they not messing with their therapist anymore. But they still need to get therapy. So hold on, she gave me a website for them to go to. I should remember it, but I don't. It's okay. One word, therapyforblackgirls.com. And she said that you can enter in like your state or your zip code, and then they will break the therapist down based off of whether you need counseling, therapy, psychiatrist, whatever it is that you need. They tell you what insurances they accept, what your copay is, and all that stuff.
Right.
But don't like neglect or give up on your mental health because you don't trust your therapist. That's a safe website. If you are a black girl and you ditched your therapist, you can go there and you can still get the help that you need. So
Well,
I did tell her I was going to say that.
I think we should do that on all aspects of our life. If I go to a bakery and find out that they are Trump humpers, I ain't going back.
Yeah.
We were going to get rid of one of our cars, an older car, and I was going to sell it. And my wife says, "What if some guy in a MAGA hat comes up and wants to buy the car?" I tell him to fuck off and leave. So I say, you know what? The car isn't worth that much. I'm just going to donate it to Cars for Kids and let somebody get some good out of it. I don't need the money that bad. I'm not going to try to sell it to some dumb fuck. But I mean, anybody who I see business wise, I'm going to. That's one of the things that's weird now because we know 50% of the people voted for Donald Trump. I got a different vibe every time I go into any place.
Yeah.
I'm always looking around. I go, "Are you one of those motherfuckers? I dare you to come up to me. I fucking dare you."
Yes. It's everywhere. There was someone in the chat, and I felt bad because like I was able to get the wild child in a study abroad program, so she doesn't have to go into the military here under Trump. I do not trust that, and
No,
I would be like crazy every day just thinking about it, especially with this fool who think women don't even deserve to be in the military anyway. But there was someone in the comment section that said that, she was happy that I was able to get her in that program. But I believe it was her son who is currently in the military and will be in the military under a Trump administration. And like my heart just like sank because I
yeah,
couldn't even imagine trusting my child to Donald Trump, like
no.
those type of people, like I do about them, even though, I'll say a little something in the comment section, but like it sits heavy on me because people, as bad as I have it and as stressed out as I could be, like there's other people that's going to be in a far worse mental state thinking about that kind of thing, especially cozying up to Russia and being,
Yeah,
that close to adversaries. Like it's got to be a special, or like a difficult time for these families that's going through that. So I
absolutely. And
wanted to tell her.
all we can do is try to all of us try to get through this, and we'll do whatever we can here because we do have compassion for the right-minded people that are just being having this shit foisted on them, and they're going to have to deal with it. We're all kind of in that position in different levels, and all we can do is talk and keep the narrative
Yeah,
going and do everything we can. Um, but we were put in this
and
position
keep
by
pushing.
50% of the country.
Yeah, keep pushing. Do what you can, even if you have to cook a meal for your neighbor or you know donate clothes, whatever it is you have to do. I think it's going to be a lot of resistance in this country. Even
Oh
like
yeah.
I always saw like the Matrix and stuff, and I always figured, oh yeah, that's the kind of resistance I would be. And no, like literally traveling around with a bunch of nuns.
This might sound
But I think we all,
this might sound patronizing to you, and I don't mean it to be. Somebody will fucking accuse me of it. When it comes to
mm-hmm.
the resistance here, I'm old enough to remember this.
Yeah,
You're a little young, but you have obviously knowledge of it. But one of the things I've been so impressed by in my life as I've grown up is the whole civil rights movement. Because
Yeah,
you got to understand when those people started that fight, Martin Luther King, all the people that were involved in that, when they started
yeah,
that fight, they were the minority. They had no standing. They had no power. They didn't have a lot of support other than their own people. But still, they fought
yeah,
and they fought and they fought and they got the Civil Rights Amendment passed. Now, I'm not saying that was a fix all. If those, if those, if that black community could do what they did, what they accomplished in the period of time when it was similarly tumultuous, if they can do it, half this country can fucking do it for all of us. Does that make
yeah,
any sense, or
definitely. I
am I
know, like
getting
for
weird
me,
here?
no, no, yeah, it does. There was a lot of like blood spilled, a lot of lives lost, but you just kind of keep focusing on the future and you keep moving forward. Like if you just look back for too long, then that could either frighten you or it could derail, your focus on where you need to be and what it is that you need to do. I always was like, because I had like a couple of like Black Panthers in my family, and
Nice.
like
Tell,
the sense of community that they have as far as making sure everybody is together and everybody's like children are eating, everybody's children is getting like those school lessons at the rec shop, or I work from home now, so if I'm not traveling and there's someone who needs like for a job interview or they have to go do whatever, it's nothing. Just drop your kids off, do what you need to do. You don't have to worry about childcare. What's going to get us through is the same thing that got them through, and that is just being there and supporting each other. That's what you have to do, because if you're by yourself, you're not going to make progress that you would if you were with other people. So I think people underestimate what a community can do. Like, be there for each other, help each other up. Even if you have some like retired teachers or whatever that can give, tutoring for children if some of these programs get cut, like I'm pretty sure there's some old people out there who wouldn't mind dusting them books off and helping some little kids out. So
well,
just support each other. We'll be all right.
I
It's
just
gonna
find
suck.
yeah, it's going to
But
suck. But I really do find it
yeah,
inspirational. I love watching movies about that era because I was young at the time. I was, in my single digits, but I know how bad it was. And I know how racism back then was just accepted. And the black community, with some help from some white folks too, but with the black community, really had no chance, zero chance to make any progress. And they still did. So if they can do that, we unified as people of color, white people, LGBTQ, half of this country, we should be able to make some inroads. We should be able to, if we take the inspiration from that group of people back in the day, and women too. I mean, women had the women's right amendment. They fought like hell. They were burning bras. They were doing all this stuff. The Vietnam War protesters. They were partly the reason why the war was stopped because they created the narrative and the noise and all this stuff. So what I'm saying is we've got a lot of examples before us with a lot less power than we have as half the country right now. So if we can take that as an inspiration, we can probably
yeah,
get some things done, but we all have to fight. We all have to push. And that's the hard part, getting everybody involved.
yeah. And what motivates me a lot of times is knowing what the alternative is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I know what the alternative is, and I'm not gonna let that happen. Not to like these girls, they don't deserve that, regardless of how crazy and whacked out their parents is. I don't know what that is, but knowing what the alternative is, and the alternative is the rights that we do have, not having those rights. The camps is the alternative. There's so much that comes along with Trump. That's the alternative. I'm going as far away from the alternative as possible. And I do think that some of these people that supporting him now, they'll catch up and they will not want the alternative either. They'll start, running towards the same direction that we running in. I just wish that they didn't have to suffer as much as they're going to. Because I've
I
still
do too.
seen, some people just, they don't understand what's coming. And it's so sad because they're going to be caught off guard. They're going to
Right.
be blindsided. And it's like everybody is trying to tell you this. But, what can you do?
I agree, and I'm on board with everything you said about motivation. But I have one other motivation. I'm going to enjoy kicking Trumplefuck's ass, making them look stupid, making them cry if I can. I I'm not as
I
I'm
mean,
not as nice as you are, and any chance I get to destroy one of them verbally or mentally or whatever, I'm going to fucking do it.
I knew you was gonna say something like that.
Yeah.
You would be like, "I told you so," and I'll just be like, hopefully you know better now. Come get you a plate. That's me. That's where I'm at. That ain't where you at.
No, it's not where I'm at. I think sometimes people have to pay consequences for their behavior before they learn. And yeah. Well, anyway, old soul, thank you for joining us on the show. I appreciate it immensely. I know everybody was anxious to hear from you again, so I'm glad you had the time to do it. I know tomorrow's going to be another busy day, so I don't want to hold you up too long, but thank you.
Thanks. I had a good. Well, I'm happy I was able to catch everybody up to what's going on now, and see where the resistance take me. I don't know. Maybe if they start rounding up people, I'll be, helping them get to safety or something. I don't know. Or I might be this boring because my TT might be watching this and she don't want me doing nothing dangerous. So,
Well, if they want to
yeah.
round me up and send me back to Sweden, I'm fucking in. Sweden sounds like a great spot compared to what they want to do to this country.
I forgot to ask you, have you seen the ships?
The
So
ships,
there
no.
are cruise liners where you can pay. Yeah, so there's cruise liners and you can pay them 40K a year and you're just like living off the ship, going to different countries and stuff.
I've heard
And
about that.
that's how
Yeah.
some people are choosing to survive for years. Yeah, I was like, is that bad to where people was like, you know what, I'm gonna pay 40,000 a year and I'm just gonna stay the heck away from this country.
Well, I mean, if you can work from
I'm not
home,
gonna do that. I'm gonna be right here. Whatever
if
happened, happened.
if you can work
Bring it.
from if you can work from home and you got a roof over your head, you got entertainment, you got some dancing, you got a buffet for every meal. That sounds kind of good to me.
Yeah,
The only problem I have is my granddaughter's here, so I'm here. I'm gonna fucking fight it out.
yeah. We gotta stay here. We gotta fight. Keep going. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right.
We're gonna be all right. And I'm glad you came on too because the first time you were on Monday, you were a little what's the word I'm looking for? You people were nervous about your emotional
Fired up.
state
I
at
know.
that. You were fired up, but you were also extremely kind of depressed too. So I'm glad
Yeah,
people can come back and hear you in a better state. I mean, everything with time, things get better, and we'll be fine ultimately. But we're going to go through some shit, and fortunately,
yeah,
you're as nice as you are. You're also tough, so I'm not worried about you.
yeah. I'll have my moments. Trust me. I have them like more often than not. But put on my game face, do what I need to do, and if you sit in those emotions too long, that depression will like take hold of you. So I try not to just sit in it too long. Just, you know, process it as best I can and then keep pushing. And hopefully by the end of this, I'm not crazy. That's the goal, is to stay sane.
We'll do what we can to keep you not going crazy. For those listening, thank you for taking the time. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll be in Savannah.